Hey, good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining us for tonight's live virtual cooking event. This is actually our first time trying this, so hopefully you guys are ready to have a fun-filled evening. My name is Vinny Gaikens. I'm the campus executive chef here at Case Western University with Bon Appetit, and it's my pleasure to really get this thing kicked off for you. Doing the event with us and actually executing the actual cooking is going to be Chef Jonathan Barger. I'm really excited to have him share his wonderful menu that we've already have set up for you guys. I know everybody should have actually reached Plum Market to pick up their bags, and you guys should have everything you need to execute this awesome time in conjunction with Senior Week. What I'll be doing is I'll actually be fielding any questions you may have. Feel free to type them in via Zoom, and we'll talk about whatever it is you have questions on while Jonathan really kind of dives in and really gets into the food and some of the real cool details on some of the things about some of the history of the dish he's preparing and some of the other nuances. Again, really looking forward to this, and a lot went into it, so I hope you guys have a wonderful time. And now I'll just let Jonathan take it from here. Have a good time.
Thank you guys all again for joining. My name is Jonathan. I appreciate you guys being here. So we're going to go ahead and just get started. We're making chicken tikka masala today, which is a classic Indian dish, but is actually the national dish in Europe and national dish of London and the UK, so that's really, really cool. There's a lot of cool history behind it we'll start diving into, but before we do anything else, go ahead and let's get our pot going for our rice. So go ahead and just put that on high heat so we can start to get our water boiling. So the first thing we're going to do is go ahead and add our water to our pot. That way we can get that up to a boil. And then in addition to that, we're going to want to go ahead and add a couple pinches of salt. And we are going to also add the 2 bay leaves. The reason we're adding the salt and the bay leaf is just to kind of give the rice a little bit of flavor. The rice we're going to be using for this is basmati, which is a really nice rice. It's very traditional for the dish. And it's just very fragrant. It's very nice and light and fluffy after it cooks, so it's perfect for this dish. Next, we're going to go into getting our chicken ready to go in the oven. I'm going to throw my lid on my pot so it'll boil a little bit faster, and we'll go into the chicken. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to clean our chicken. So what I like to do, this is just a boneless skinless chicken breast. I like to take off any of this like real thick white fat. So we're just going to go ahead and take that off. Just like that. Go through and clean up any of those really thick spots. Go ahead and take that off. And then from there, you're just going to give it a rough dice. Basically, what you're looking to do is just make sure that all these pieces are the same size. That way that it'll cook nice and evenly for you. Give that a quick little dice. All right. From there, we're going to go ahead and grab our mixing bowl. And we're going to go ahead and marinate this chicken. So the chicken's going to go into the bowl, and then we're going to use our yogurt and our spices to marinate it. The big key here with the chicken is the yogurt. Number one, it adds a lot of acid and a lot of tang, which will really be a nice complement to the dish. But the real big deal with the yogurt is actually the science behind how it interacts with the chicken itself. So the yogurt actually starts to tenderize and starts to break down the chicken, allowing it to absorb more water and more marinade, and actually allows it to become more flavorful by sitting in that marinade. So in addition to the yogurt and the chicken, we're going to go ahead and add some of this spice. The spice blend is already a bunch of toasted spices that I have mixed together. Traditionally, all these spices would be in a round container called a masala daba. And what that is in a lot of homes, especially homes of Indian culture, it's a round metal spice container with a bunch of little containers in it. And it has the traditional spices that they use for their traditional dishes and within their home. A lot of the times this is a curry powder, a garam masala, cumin, fenugreek, mustard, coriander, just the real traditional spices for the dishes in that culture. To that yogurt and chicken, we're going to add 2 tablespoons of that and give that another little mix. And then we're going to set that to the side so that we can then cut our ginger and our garlic, which is also going to get added to the marinade. Gonna move this chicken board out of the way. Keep everything nice and clean. And that's a big key too in cooking, is just being really organized and really methodical about what you're doing, and really just have yourself set up. The chef term that we use is mise en place, which means having everything that you want ready to go, cut, chopped up, and just makes cooking a lot easier. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to give our garlic a rough chop. So for garlic, what we already have, it's already peeled, so it's made a lot easier for us. So we're just going to give it a little smack. Just to crush it, it's going to allow it to release a lot of the essential oils that are inside of it and bring out a lot more of that flavor. After we crush it, just run the knife through with a little chop. Just like so. And then for the garlic that you have, we're going to take half of it and mix it into our chicken. And then we're going to take the other half and reserve it for making the sauce, which is going to be the main component of the dish. So I'm going to go ahead and add the other half to our chicken bowl right here. And next we're going to go into preparing our ginger. Ginger is one of my favorite ingredients. It's very aromatic. It has very, very specific flavor, very unique flavor. And you can really change it. You can candy it, you can pickle it. In Europe, there's a thing called stem ginger, where it's actually slightly pickled and also in like a sweet syrup. And they use it for teas and desserts and everything. It's really, really delicious. You can peel this with your knife, but a really good trick for peeling ginger is just to place it down on your board and just use a spoon. And the spoon will peel all of that skin off really easily. And there's a lot of pros to doing this way. One of them is you don't waste any of the product, and it's really nice so that you don't have to waste any of the product and you can get a full yield on it. And the other reason too is ginger is never one uniform shape. It's got a lot of little nooks and crannies and a lot of little points like this where it's hard to get into with a knife. So using the back of a spoon, you're really able to just pull all that extra skin off. And once we have it clean, I'm just going to discard this real quick. From here, all we're going to do is take and slice it down so we can mince it. So we're just going to put some nice thin slices here. And then from here, basically what we're doing is we're julienning it. That's really just a fancy chef term for cutting really nice thin strips. And once we cut these nice thin strips, that's going to make it a lot easier for us to end up with a nice small dice. So now we have that, just turn it and get a nice small dice. A big key to this sauce as we're making it, you're going to find, is that we're going to be sweating all the ingredients together and cooking them kind of low and slow. The key to that is, number one, we're not adding any caramelization, so it really lets all the natural flavors and juices and oils of the foods come out, is number one. And number two is it allows you to really kind of control the flavor of the dish. The moment you start browning and caramelizing things and you have what's called the Maillard reaction, that's bringing the natural sugars out of the food. So by us controlling that, we're able to really contain the balance of all the flavors. Same thing as we did with the garlic. We're going to put half of the ginger back to go in our sauce, maybe a little more than half. And then the rest of this we're going to go ahead and add to our chicken. Just like so. And then we're going to go ahead and give that chicken a real nice mix. So now that we're mixing this up really well, we're going to go ahead and throw this in our oven. Your oven's going to be 350 degrees, and you're going to cook it till it's completely done, which is 165 degrees, or for the chicken diced up this size, boneless, skinless, you're looking at about 15 to 18 minutes. So from here, I'll just place that on our sheet tray. And then you're just going to want to spread it out nice and even so that all the pieces cook evenly. And if you ever have the time to make this dish again, marinating the chicken overnight is great. It really allows it to be a lot more plump and juicy, and it just is really delicious. The longer it marinates, the better it gets. So from here, I'm just going to slide this in our oven. And like I said, 350 degrees for about 15 to 18 minutes, or if you have a thermometer until it's 165 degrees, just to make sure that it's cooked all the way through. I'm going to go ahead and turn around and take a look at our water and see if we're boiling yet. We're not quite there. We're going to give that a couple more minutes. While we wait for that, we'll go ahead and start chopping up the rest of our ingredients to make our sauce, which is also the main component of the dish. So there's a really, really fun history when it comes to chicken tikka masala. The history behind the dish is it is Indian in origin, but it actually hails from Paris. So the story is believed that there was a chef working in a restaurant, and they had a diner come in, and he served him a traditional dish of chicken tikka, which is actually a dry dish. So it's kind of like a tandoori chicken where the actual chicken itself is dry. It's not necessarily in sauce. And the food went out to the table, and the customer complained and was really unhappy with their food and was like, you know, this is really dry. I don't really care for this. Can you please have the chef add some sauce? And the dish came back to the kitchen, and the chef was like, I don't know what kind of sauce to put on this. Sauce doesn't go on it. And the chef at the time was believed to be on a liquid diet and had made tomato soup for himself for his own lunch. And he's like, okay, I'll just add his chicken to some of my tomato soup. I'll add some spices and some cream, and I'll call it a day. And that's exactly what that chef did. He added some tomato soup. He added some cream to add some luxuriousness and some fat to it, added a spice blend, and sent it out to the diner, and he was thrilled and loved it and wrote about it, and just like that, chicken tikka masala was born. That is believed to be how it came about, and I just think it's a very fun and interesting story because it just shows how many things that we love and we enjoy that really are just kind of born out of accident or born out of just a pure experimentation. I'm going to go ahead and change my gloves real quick. So now we have our onion cut. So I'm going to just take that and put that back to the side. We'll use that to build our sauce. And like I was saying before, mise en place is very important. Whenever you make any recipe, not just this one, being able to just have everything chopped up allows you to be able to come over here to your pan, get your pan hot, and cook in steps. And it really, really helps you cook more efficiently, and I firmly believe makes your food taste even better. So I'm going to go ahead and turn our pan on medium-high heat. If you're using an induction burner, that's like 8, which is what I happen to be using. Go ahead and check my water, which is almost there. I'm going to turn the heat up a little bit more on that so that we can get our rice going. And then I'm going to come back over here, and we're going to go ahead and start chopping some of our herbs and our chili, which are also going to be used for our tikka masala, the main component. The herbs I have here are mint and cilantro. The big key with herbs is to not over chop them and not overcut them. One of my favorite chefs, Gordon Ramsay, always says, when you're cutting herbs, there should be no color left on your board. A lot of times when you cut herbs, you'll have that green left on your cutting board, and that kind of says that you chopped them so much that you're losing all their oils and losing all their flavors. Herbs, in order to get flavor from them, I'll take one of these mint leaves to show you, for example. As you start to bruise them and break them, you can see where they start to become, the color changes. They get darker and they become wet because the natural oils and liquid that's inside of them start to release, and that's where you're going to get a lot of the flavor from. So the first herb I'm cutting here is mint. We're going to just give that a real nice rough chop. And both of these are going to go in the dish right at the very end. It's going to add a nice lightness to the sauce and just add a real nice herbaceousness to it. Mint, I think, is a really underutilized herb. And a lot of people don't use it enough. It's really fresh and bright and adds just a little bit of almost like acidityness and pepperiness, and it's just really, really nice to add into sauces at the end. So we'll set that to the side as well. Go ahead and discard these stems. And then if you're ever going to be making stock or anything like that, all these stems are great to save. The stems have more flavor than any other part of the herb. So being able to use those in sauces, soups, or even stocks, you really get a lot of flavor out of them. The next herb I'm working with right here, and that you guys have in front of you as well, is cilantro. So we're just pulling all that off. And we're one of the few places that actually call it cilantro. Most other places it's just called coriander, but it's fresh coriander. But here we're used to calling coriander the little dried like coriander seeds. But it's either way it's the same, cilantro or coriander. So I'm going to take that, and we're going to chop that up as well. And then once again, this will also get added to the sauce at the end, and then we will save a little bit to garnish as well. A lot of people will tell you, to take all the stems out and really only pick all the leaves off. If the stems aren't really thick and really fibrous, almost like rosemary or thyme, if they're not real woody, it's nice to leave some of them in because, like I was saying, they have more flavor than the actual leaf itself. Go ahead and give that a rough chop as well. Just like so. And we'll set that to the side. So next we're going to go ahead and get started in building the sauce, or the main component of the dish. Just go ahead and discard all this. So we have our burner over here on medium-high heat, and we have our water at a boil. So before I even start the sauce, we'll go ahead and get our rice in. Our rice is going to take 15 to 20 minutes in the water. Definitely make sure you have a lid on it. That's really, really important. It helps the rice steam as it cooks, which gives you a really nice, light, fluffy rice. If you don't put a lid on it, the water will cook off faster than the rice cooks, and you'll end up with rice that's both mushy and crunchy at the same time. So go ahead and add your rice in. Give that a little mix around in the water. And then go ahead and place that lid back on, and then you can turn that heat down to about medium. All right, so we'll go back to making the sauce. So our first step is we're going to want to just add a little bit of oil to our pan. And then from there, the first thing we're going to add is going to be our onions. The reason we're going to add those first is because they're going to take the longest to cook and start to break down. From there, we're then going to go ahead and add our ginger, because that takes the next amount of time to break down. And then we'll add our chili, and the last thing we will add will be our garlic. I always add garlic last for two reasons. One, garlic cooks very quickly and it can burn very easily. And number two is because if you sweat down garlic for too long, you lose a lot of that flavor, and you can kind of cook the flavor out of it. So we're going to go ahead and add our onions first. You're going to hear a little bit of a sizzle, but not too much, which is really good. That means that you're going to get, the pores opening up and releasing all of its natural liquids, but you're not going to get caramelization, which is going to affect the overall taste of the dish. And like I was saying in the beginning, the key to this sauce, and key to making a lot of sauces in general, is to sweat these ingredients down, to allow their natural flavors to shine and to allow their natural oils to come out into the pan. You'll see as we cook, I didn't use very much oil, but you'll see that in the end, once we sweat down all these ingredients, that there's going to be a lot more liquid in the pan than we started with. I'm going to go ahead and add our ginger next. Give that a stir as well. While that's going, we'll go ahead and cut up our chili. So for the chili, what I like to do is I like to roll it on my board just a little bit. That helps knock the seeds loose that are inside. Take the top off. And then most of those seeds will fall right out. The seeds are where the majority of the heat comes from, and the flesh is the majority of where the flavor comes from. So if you're looking for something more spicy, you would leave the seeds in. If you're looking for something more mild, you would take them out. This chili here is, I'm going to add about half of it to my dish. Chili is just kind of like salt. You know whether you like really hot food or you like really salty food, so you kind of can control how much heat you want to add to the dish. So for this one here, I'm going to probably add about half of this chili in. I'm going to go ahead and give this another stir. Just like so. All right, and then I'm going to go ahead and finish chopping this chili. And then I will add this chili in. And then after that, we will add our garlic. And I'm going to go with about half. Just like so. I'll put half in there. We'll give that another good mix. And same thing, we're just trying to, with a nice low heat, sweat out all the flavor from the onions and the ginger and the chilies. And as soon as it hits the heat, you're going to really be able to smell it. And you'll actually be able to smell the ginger. You'll be able to smell the onion. And you'll be able to smell like the spice from the actual chili itself. All right, come back over here. All right, I won't be cutting anything else, so I'm going to take my glove off one more time. All right. So next we're going to go ahead and grab our garlic, now that everything else is sweating down. And really just take a look. You're going to start to see the onions are going to start to caramelize just a little bit. You're going to see just a little bit of browning in the pan. As soon as you see that, and you can kind of see through the ingredients, they become a term that we use as translucent, so you can see through them. You're going to go ahead and add your garlic in, and then you're going to mix that in as well. And we're just going to let that go for a couple seconds before we add the rest of our ingredients. Then I'm going to go ahead and give my rice a little stir. As your rice cooks, you're going to want to stir it. That's going to help prevent it from burning to the bottom. And then definitely make sure that it's on like a medium heat. That way, like I said before, you're allowing that steam to cook some of that rice as well. All right. So next for our main component, which is the tikka masala sauce, we're going to add our tomatoes. You guys all have a can of tomatoes here. So we're going to go ahead and take that. We're going to add that straight in, and then we're going to allow it to reduce down. There's a lot of water in canned tomato products or fresh tomatoes in general. They're mostly water. So the idea when you're making any sort of sauce to get a really nice thick velvety texture, you're going to want to cook out a lot of that liquid. The tomatoes are whole, that's totally okay, and then you can use diced or crushed. But all we're going to do is, as it starts to cook down, the tomatoes will soften, and we'll just break those up with a spoon or a spatula, whatever you're using. And it'll give you these nice big chunks in there, which are really, really nice, and they go really well with the overall dish. So I'll just break those down a little bit with a spoon, just like so. And then we'll just let that cook down. Like I said, again, we're on about a medium-high heat, and we're just going to start cooking the water out of all of that. Another thing I really kind of wanted to talk about one more time was the spices. So a lot of effort and a lot of energy goes into making these spices. Traditionally in our supermarkets, we'll see curry powders, or we'll see, tikka masala seasoning, or, butter chicken seasoning, or butter chicken pre-made sauces, and so much effort and energy really goes into making what just looks like a simple spice mix. So in here we have several ingredients. I have cumin, I have garam masala, I have fenugreek, I have mustard seeds, I have whole coriander, I have bay leaves, I have allspice, cinnamon sticks, peppercorns, and cloves. And that all goes into a saute pan with nothing in it, no oil, and I put that over heat to about a medium heat. I put all those spices in and then toast those spices to the point where you can start to smell them. You'll smell the cumin, you'll smell the cinnamon, you'll smell it blooming, and you'll smell the spices kind of waking up and opening up. And that really is just what leaves you with just a beautiful spice mix. Like as soon as we go to start cooking with this, if you can't already smell it from your chicken cook it, when we go to add it to this sauce, the moment it hits the pan, it really just wakes up your senses, and you're really able to smell it. And this spice mix is just super important to the cooking in general and the overall dish, because it really is just what brings so much flavor and so much complexity to the dish, because something we're adding as one ingredient really has anywhere from 9 to 20 different spices that are blended up in it to really give you a super unique flavor. I'm going to go ahead and spin it around here one more time and give our sauce a stir. And then we're going to go ahead and break up some of these tomatoes. If you're not doing the chicken tikka masala and you're doing the cauliflower and chickpea, now would be a good time to go ahead and open up your chickpeas, get those drained and ready to go in at the end, and go ahead and get your coconut milk opened up, because the next step we'll be adding our cream.
Hey chef, we in the comment here, they certainly love your spoon.
Oh, okay. So
I know I'm opening the floodgates.
I was hoping somebody would say that. So I am a knife junkie and a spoon junkie, and they are my absolute favorite thing. I'm going to really quickly, since somebody brought it up, pull this one back up. So this right here is a knife that was actually made for me custom, only one ever made, from a guy in the Philippines. I'm pen pals with him, and he made a couple knives really early on, and I bought one from him, and we hit off a relationship and a friendship, and it is just super awesome. As chefs, a lot of times, even our campus chef Vinny could speak to it, we're in black pants and a white coat and black socks, and we're trimmed and we're cleaned and we're neat and we're ready to go, and it's all uniform. So like just having like these beautiful tools is a really nice way to just be able to express your personality and express the things you like. And also, speaking of tools in general, they're one of the most important things in the kitchen. For example, your knife. The most dangerous thing that you are going to find in your kitchen is going to be a dull knife. The minute you have a dull knife, you have things where it'll want to roll or it'll want to fall off instead of glide through the food. And when that happens, that's when most injuries happen. And if you do cut yourself, whether it be a sharp knife or a dull knife, it is actually better for your body and you heal faster if you cut yourself with a sharp knife. So if you're going to have a knife in your kitchen, have it be sharp. And if you can have it look really nice too, that's a big plus. So I'm going to come back over here to our sauce, and you can kind of see where it's bubbling, and you can see the water bubbling out, and you can see that you're being left with On the bottom of a pan, it's called fond, when you have all this flavor that sticks to the bottom of the pan. So we're just going to go ahead and keep mixing that around so we don't get any burning or any caramelization, but you can really see that you have a lot less liquid than we started with, which is good because that means we're cooking out all that water from the tomatoes and we're leaving it with just the tomatoes. Also, another thing some people might think is why we didn't put our spices in the beginning. And we did that for a couple of reasons. One big reason we didn't put the spices in the beginning is because they've already been toasted. They've already been made to be aromatic. So they've already been lightly cooked. So they don't need to go in the beginning to be cooked. Another reason is because these spices are already blended and they're in a powder form. If we add them in the beginning when there's a lot of water in the dish, they're going to absorb water, and that's going to dilute the actual flavor of not only the spice, but the whole dish. So by waiting until you have like that final product that you want to season, it really would help to not add it in the beginning and add it in the end. Now, salt is entirely different. Salt is something that you definitely want to add in the beginning because it draws out moisture and it draws out water. So for example, if you were caramelizing onions and you add the salt in the very beginning, that's going to bring all the water out of those onions, allow those to caramelize and be sweeter and develop a deeper color. So we will go ahead, I'll mix this one more time, break up the last of these tomatoes, and I can see that this is nice and dry, and more of the bottom of my pan is visible than is covered by liquid. So that's when I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my cream. If you're making the cauliflower and chickpea, this is when you're going to go ahead and add your coconut milk as well. I'm going to go ahead and add that to my dish, give that a little bit of a mix. And then once you have that cream in there and you have more liquid in there, you can turn it up to like a medium-high heat just to help to expedite the process of getting it to reduce. I'm going to come over here and give my rice another check and give it a stir. I don't know how your guys' is, but my rice, almost all the water is cooked out and it's already starting to look fluffy. And the minute I pull that lid off, I can really smell it. The bay leaves have that beautiful fragrance, but even the rice itself just has a beautiful smell to it and a beautiful flavor naturally without adding anything to it, which is why basmati is probably one of, if not my favorite rice to cook. So I'm going to go ahead and spin back over here. So now we're going to go ahead and take that spice blend that I've talked so much about, and we're going to go ahead and add that to our sauce. You're going to want to add about 2 tablespoons, which is pretty much the remainder of mine. And as soon as you add it, instantly you're going to smell it. You're going to smell, the first thing you're probably going to smell to most people is going to be the cumin. You're going to almost want to associate it with like tacos, because tacos have a like taco seasoning, especially like, you know, everybody's favorite Taco Bell has tons and tons of cumin in it. It's a very appropriate scent and a very appropriate flavor in Mexican cooking, and that's probably the first thing you're going to smell. After that, if you eat a lot of curry or if you like curry, you're probably going to get the smells from the garam masala, which is a traditional blend of spices, as well as just the overall smell of curry, which is coming from blending all these spices together. The next thing we're going to do is your chicken that's in the oven. You'll probably want to go ahead and give that a quick check. For sake of convenience, I already have some chicken that I cooked off that we're going to add into the sauce in a couple of minutes. The chicken you're going to want to add pretty much towards the end. Number one, you've already cooked the chicken. And the reason we cook the chicken in the oven versus in the sauce is a couple of reasons. One, you can do it in the sauce or in the pan, and that's totally okay. But one of the reasons that I like to cook it ahead of time and then add it in. Number one, chicken, once again, releases a lot of liquid, especially like boneless, skinless chicken breasts that you get at the supermarket. 9 times out of 10, they're allowed to be pumped with a certain amount of water, so there's a lot of water in them. So that would cook out into your sauce, thus diluting the overall flavor of your dish. Number two, what I believe is a big secret to restaurant cooking versus home cooking is cooking in steps and cooking with mise en place. Like for example, at home we cook green beans, we put them straight into a pan, we cook them, we'll add a little bit of water, we steam them, we do the whole works, and the green beans are done from start to finish at one time. In a restaurant, we take those green beans and we blanch them in boiling water that's been lightly salted. Then we cool those down so they're beautiful, bright and green, and they're a little bit crisp. Then from there we have a hot pan with oil and garlic and herbs, and then we toss the green beans in that to finish the cooking. And I really think that steps in cooking and taking that extra time is really what allows you to develop that extra flavor. So go ahead and come over to your sauce and take another look at it, and you're going to see that it's getting thicker and thicker. So the thickness that we're looking for, I'm going to go with a French term, which is called nappe. And what that means is that after you take whatever you're mixing with, a spoon, a spatula, a rubber spatula, When you lift it out of the sauce and you see it run down the back of the spoon, you're going to be able to come across it like this and nothing is going to run through. So that is a French term called nappe, and that's exactly what we're looking for. So once you're there, you're going to go ahead and you're going to add your chicken. And you're going to mix that in. You're going to put this on low heat and you're going to let it continue to cook. If you're cooking the cauliflower and the chickpea curry, you're going to go ahead and add your roasted cauliflower in as well as your chickpeas. I'm going to turn the heat down to low now on your actual tikka masala sauce. And I'm going to give my rice another check, which is looking really nice. All right, and then I'm going to come back over here, move some of this stuff out of the way. And basically right now what we're doing is we're just allowing all the flavors to marry. We're allowing the flavor of the tomatoes and the spices and the cream and the chicken, and we're just allowing that to all come together nice and low and slow while our rice finishes up cooking. So we're just going to let that go, let that simmer, and then we're going to come over and we're going to start the drink. All right. Pull this out of here. So we have included inside of all these bags as well a mocktail, will you? If you have some liquor at home, feel free to add it. It will not hurt it, that is for sure. So I have, as somebody already commented, lots of cool spoons. So I have this one too. This is just a normal cocktail spoon, just a swizzle spoon, whatever you want to call it. It's just fun to get to use it, to be totally honest. And then I have a muddler. You guys don't need one of those at home. At home, honestly, I don't even have one. I just use the back of a wooden spoon. So just take your wooden spoon, flip it upside down, and we're going to use that to basically crush all the flavor out of these ingredients. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to just take one of a nice sized mint leaf. We're going to set that to the side. We're going to garnish with that. And then we're going to take the rest of the leaves and just throw those down in the bottom of your glass. We're then going to take a lime and we're going to cut it in half one time, cut it in half again, and then again. So your whole lime will yield you with 8 pieces. I only need 4, so that's all I'm going to take. From there, cut those halves in half like this, so you have 4 chunks. And to that, I'm going to add it to the glass. So from there, in the bottom of my glass right now, I have my mint and I have my limes. So we're going to muddle that, which really is just crushing it. So basically all I'm doing is crushing it. I'm bringing out the juice from the lime and I'm bruising that mint, like the herbs that I'm talking about earlier. I'm bruising it, bringing out all that natural flavor, bringing out those natural oils into the actual bottom of the glass so that you're going to end up with a bunch of liquid that is going to then flavor the drink itself. Just give that a nice good crush. You can actually hear the juice coming out of the lime and you can smell the mint. As you're muddling it, you can really, really smell it. So just continue to crush that until we get a good amount in there. Once we do that, then we're going to add our agave nectar. It's a really, really great choice for drinks to use agave nectar or honey. The real reasons I like it is because unlike sugar, it doesn't have to dissolve. So sugar can leave a lot of things really gritty, especially if it's not going to be hot or get hot at any point. If it's going to be cold, agave is a really nice alternative. Number one, you can use less of it and it's just as sweet, if not sweeter. And number two is you don't have to worry about it actually being able to dissolve because it's already a liquid. It's just like honey. So I'm just going to mash that up a little bit more, muddle that a little bit more now that I have the agave in there. I'm going to pause this for 1 second, turn around and just give my sauce a stir. We don't want to take any chances of it burning. We put all this hard work and love and energy into it. The last thing we want to do is burn it. And you're really going to see that texture coming together. It's going to be really silky, really velvety smooth. And really just kind of coating the back of that spoon. There's those nice chunks of chicken in there. There's the big plump pieces of tomato. Really just everything we're looking for a nice, homey, delicious dish. And then my rice is totally done. So I'm going to go ahead and leave that. Spin back over here to the drink. Mash that a little more. Take my muddler out. All right, next I'm going to go ahead and add some ice. From there, I'm going to go ahead and open up my coconut LaCroix. And I'm just going to pour as much as will fit in until it reaches the top. Once I get there, I'm going to get to use my long, big, fancy spoon because why not? One of the perks of the job. Just give that a good mix. And as you're mixing it, if you mix up and down coming towards you and spinning the glass, it'll mix more evenly. I know it sounds crazy to think that there's a way to mix a drink. But I learned from being in the business that there really is a way to mix a drink. Give that a good mix and you're going to see the whole drink start to become cloudy, you're going to see the pieces of lime and the pieces of mint coming through, and that's how you'll know you've mixed it enough. And then we're going to take one of those limes, cut a tiny little slit in it, so we can put it on the side just to be real nice, just to add an extra pizzazz, because why not, right? We're going to add our little bit of a mint leaf there, and then you'll have your drink, your coconut, and your coconut mocktail. Then we're going to come back around here. I'm going to pull down our plate. And then I'm going to come back and we'll start plating up our main dish. So we're going to go ahead and give that sauce one last good mix. And then now is that point where we're going to go ahead and add our herbs. Really important to understand herbs and how they work. Really kind of dive into that. You've got your soft herbs, which are like your parsley, your cilantro, your mint, anything that's really soft that you can tear easy. Then you have your rough herbs or your hard herbs or your hardy herbs, which are like your sages and your rosemaries and your thymes. Those you can cook with because they take time to break down. Such as the mint and the cilantro, they're very light, so they cook very quickly and very easily, and you can cook all the flavor out of them to the point where they become bitter. So that's why I am now going to take my sauce off the heat, and then I'm going to add in all of my herbs. Once I add those in, all I'm doing is mixing them in. The residual heat from the sauce and the dish already is more than enough to wake them up and get all the flavor to pool out of them. And then it also just adds a nice, beautiful green color so that you have a great presentation as well. And then next, presentation will be the next thing I talk about. Presentation can set everything else apart. As a chef, when I look at a plate, specifically a nice white one, I look at it as a blank canvas and as if I'm an artist. I go, you know, I can just throw this food on the plate and it will still be delicious, but we all eat with our eyes first. Instagram, Facebook, those are the big things nowadays. Look at it, look at it, look at it. Flavor is still important and it will always be king, but really we eat with our eyes first. So seeing something that is beautiful and appealing to the eye will be more delicious when we eat it, and we'll get more enjoyment out of it as well. So I'm going to go ahead and grab our rice. We're going to pull that over here. First thing you want to do is go ahead and go in there and pull out those bay leaves. Just set those to the side. And then you're just going to mound your rice in the middle of the plate. This should be enough to make like 2 servings. This is a great example of something to make family style. Say you're having a couple friends over or it's just the family. To really get like a nice big platter, lay it out, and everybody share from it. This is a really, really good dish to do family style. So for our sake, I'm just going to go ahead and take this rice. And I'm going to put it right in the center of the plate. Just like so. And kind of mound it up high. In kitchens and restaurants, we really like to build height on a plate. Height is really appealing. Occasionally, we'll want to spread things out, but most of the time, we want to build up the dish. From there, I'm then going to go ahead and grab our sauce, or the main component of our dish, the Tikka Masala. And then I'm going to take that, and you can just see that beautiful green. There's just enough heat in there to really pull out that chlorophyll and give you that nice, beautiful green color. And then that we're just going to place right on top. Nothing too crazy, just it will look delicious in its own natural way. I am a firm believer that just cooking food classically, cooking food with love, cooking food with heart is really, really what matters. You can be the world's next best chef, and you can sit back and you can put 1,000 components on a plate, but if you don't truly love what you're doing and you're not doing it for the right reasons, your food will always be missing something. That's why everybody's greatest food memories is not, you know, it's not that restaurant you went to in New York City. It's not that restaurant you went to in Chicago. It's when you were 12 years old and you went over to your grandma's house and she made you the best XYZ, whatever it is. For my grandmother, it was fried eggs. Super simple, but she made the best fried egg, and she would always make me toast to dip into it. And that is my greatest food memory of all time. It's not a fancy dish that I cooked in a 5-star restaurant. It's not a fancy dish I got in New York City or somewhere else in the world. It's that food where there's a connection and there's a love and there's a passion for cooking it and why you're cooking it. And then here I just have the Tikka Masala. I'll sit it here so you guys can see it as well. So we have our meal and we have our drink. And it doesn't take much time at all, and it's something you can cook at home. You can cook for your family, you can cook for your friends, and really, really just get some enjoyment out of it. And it's something that you can adapt. So You know, here we have chicken, or for our vegetarians and vegans, we had our cauliflower and we had our chickpea. You've got a lot more options here. Lamb is a thing. Turkey is a thing. You can feel free to use tofu. My wife's personal favorite is paneer, which is like a farmer's cheese almost. And it really absorbs flavor, and it's really, really amazing. And it doesn't like melt like a normal cheese. It's like if tofu and cheese kind of had like a love child. It's like perfect. It's like nice and spongy and absorbs a lot of flavor, but at the same time just has a beautiful velvety texture. So this can really go a ton of ways. You can use this so many different ways. You can leave the meat out of it completely and just use it as a sauce. So it's really, really just a blast to cook. I really appreciate you guys following along, and I really, really had a good time. So if you guys have any questions, I'd love to answer them.